Thank you, Joel.
I want to start by thanking the International Tribunal for the opportunity to testify today. In the U.S., we are fooled to believe that we have equal access to opportunity and the ability to connect and exchange ideas with the whole world, but the reality is quite different. Here are some examples of what the U.S. youth lose because of the 243 sanctions in the state-sponsored of terrorism listing the U.S. has against Cuba. First, the U.S. blockade of Cuba prevents a vital exchange of ideas and experiences between young American students and youth in American educational institutions. Especially due to Cuba's designation on the list, college and university liability insurance does not cover the travel to Cuba. This has significantly reduced travel and education exchange by academic institutions into the island. If you are not a student, there are very limited legal licenses enabling young U.S. citizens to travel to Cuba without facing possible federal prosecution. This greatly restricts the number of youth traveling to Cuba and has a chilling effect on people who want to experience the culture, art, nature, and all other aspects of Cuban life. Secondly, working conditions and wages in the U.S. have a history of benefiting the employers and not the workers. Over a quarter of U.S. agricultural workers are overwhelmingly young immigrants, often undocumented, that work in super exploitive and health-endangering agriculture. Without papers or health benefits, the threat of sickness and or deportation hangs over the heads of organizers for union rights and safer working conditions on these vital yet low-value jobs American youth have to endure. The blockade is an attempt to block an exchange of ideas and solidarity in action between union members here and our counterparts in Cuba. If the blockade ended, it would mean more dignified jobs with better working conditions for U.S. and Cuban youth. Third, in the United States, fewer than 6% of medical graduates are Black or brown. Young people who dream of being doctors in the U.S. will owe a median wage of $215,000 or more in total educational debt. Aware of the class and racist obstacles toward equal participation in medical science, Cuba has established the Latin American Medical School, also known as ELAM, where 47% of Americans trained are Black and 29% are Latino. And upon returning to the U.S., they undertake work in areas lacking medical services, work where most American-trained doctors refuse to work. Fourth, the blockade has also created gigantic obstacles toward collaboration between Cuba's working-class biotechnical industries and scientists in the United States. Due to the blockade, travel restrictions, and the lack of internet access, collaboration is extremely difficult. American scientific journals rarely publish the work of Cuban researchers, and when they do, Cuban researchers don't have access because of internet restrictions. Once again, squashing an opportunity for scientists and researchers to connect and work together in pressing problems like the COVID pandemic affecting people worldwide. Fifth, U.S. farmers would like to sell more agricultural goods to Cuba, but cannot due to the blockade. In Cleveland, where I currently live, the City Council passed a resolution calling for an end to the blockade, citing, quote, express special concern regarding the cost of the blockade to Ohio farmers and manufacturers who have products to sell which Cuba wants to buy. It's estimated that the U.S. loses out on $1 billion of agricultural exports every year because of the blockade. Prohibits most exports and mires the rest in financial regulation, end quote. An increase in U.S. exports to Cuba would stimulate more jobs for young people on farms, in factories, and retail stores. Exports to the U.S. would help both the Cuban and American economies. 6. U.S. youth are clearly interested in the state of our environment, as seen at the current climate strikes where tens of thousands of youth have come out to express their anxieties and fears about the lack of action that those in charge take to address our climate crisis. Unlike Cuba, who addresses current environmental issues through their environmental plan Tarea Vida, the name itself gives you a hint at the humanitarian approach the Cubans take toward climate change. This has proven itself in the differences between hurricane responses. Let's take, for example, Hurricane Isabel, where more Americans died in 2003 than Cubans died during 6 major hurricanes from 1996 to 2002. This is why the UN has repeatedly cited Cuba as a global model for risk reduction and climate change preparedness. As a result of the blockade, youth worldwide cannot collaborate on fighting climate change and adopting preventative tactics as we are already fighting greed-induced climate catastrophes. In conclusion, young people in the US are looking for alternatives and solutions in a system that continuously shows it does not have our best interest in mind. In fact, most American youth don't support the blockade. When the US government stops us from connecting with others and building better futures together, we really have to question what is it that they're actually trying to hide from us. Because what I have seen while visiting Cuba and experiencing Cuba is very different from what the main English and Spanish media outlets, including entertainment, had told me growing up. And this is why I'm here to respectfully demand the US to end the blockade and remove Cuba off the state-sponsored terrorism list. The youth deserve to learn and experience alternative ways of social and political systems to help us create a system that is more humanitarian and collaborative. Thank you.